we're going to talk about owners and fans and how they're obsessed with getting rich owners and what that really looks like for clubs. And Jamie, I know you've got a bit of a rant on this. What are your feelings about this?
My feelings about this are more about the fans than the owners. I'm gonna preface this by saying there are some bad owners out there, undoubtedly. I'm not saying that complaints are not always warranted. They are. I'm gonna start on Manchester United. You know I like them very much. No, but in seriousness, Manchester United fans are some of the best in the country, I would say. But and there are concerns about the debt. I'll say that front up. The debt at United is a problem that needs to be sorted and absolved in some way if the Glazers leave the club. But listen, the Glazers weren't such a hot topic when they took over the club. There were some protests, granted, but those settled down when Manchester United started winning titles. But United fans are largely complaining due to the lack of success, and that is not a good reason to complain about an owner because their team's worse off. But United fans seem to want some sympathy, so I will give them some. Yes, your 76,000-seater stadium is falling apart. How tragic. Coventry have played in Northampton and Birmingham in recent years because they're home. They've been displaced from their home. Titles. How many titles have you won? 5 Premier League titles, an FA Cup, 4 League Cups, and a Champions League during the Glazers' reign. So tragic when Luton, Birmingham, Reading and others have had points deducted because the clubs are run so terribly. And $2 billion has been spent by the Glazers since they took over United. Meanwhile, Bury just down the road, no longer in existence. Scunthorpe and Southend have fallen through the leagues like no tomorrow. But United, poor fans, eh? And now they want richer owners. We'll take Qatar owners. Who cares what we get just to keep up with everyone else? I've got no time for it. No time at all. Now the Glazers have done some things wrong. Yes, for sure. Are they the best owners in the world? No, I'm not here to defend them. What I'm here to defend is that United fans get on board when not enough money is spent, when they're not keeping up with the likes of City, but that is not a good enough reason, where the other clubs so much worse off. And we saw this with Arsenal as well recently, how quiet they've gone recently. Hey, they started to pick up, they started to spend money, suddenly the fans are happy. The Cronkies can't go no wrong again. Wow, look at this. The LA Rams won a Super Bowl, the Cronkies are on fire. And now, look at what's happened. But Newcastle, you're next victims, Newcastle fans, so disappointed in you. You were fantastic at one stage, some of the best fans in the country again, and you just accept an ownership like that. How unbelievable. Saudi Arabia, literally murderous owners, should never have been approved. They weren't approved at the first attempt. They give it another shot, the Premier League. Oh, the sound of money, and they accept it. Wow. But what's most disappointing is Newcastle fans accept the ownership, and for the terrible, cheap price of success. Because if this was a bad ownership again, then you'd hear all about it. But no, they're doing well, so it's okay. And that is tragic. And most of the defence, we deserve success. No one deserves success. We just mentioned some of the teams that have fallen through the leagues. Under Mike Ashley, Newcastle were a wreck. Got relegated twice, but they bounced back up twice. First season, they bounced back up both times. Listen, no one deserves success. And listen, if you're going to accept ownership like Saudi Arabia, you can't make excuses for it. Just say, look, it's out of my control. I don't expect people to walk away from their clubs because of who bought it, but do not say you deserve success to justify owners who murder people. You cannot say that. It's a disgrace that Newcastle fans use that excuse for being okay with the fact that Saudi Arabian owners. And listen, it's easy to not say anything in success. It's easy, and it's just this is what's so bad about it. This is where Newcastle fans need to stand up against it. They won't, because they're happy to be in the Champions League. But listen, if I had so much more respect for them if they complained while they were doing well and they made a clear stance that they wouldn't allow this in their club, but they will because it's successful. It's the same at Arsenal. It's the same as United. It's all defined by success and nothing else. And that is tragic when you have clubs go out of business lower down the leagues.
Short-term gain, isn't it? That's a great rant, Thank you very much. Yeah, what a rant that was. I completely agree. It's short-term gain, isn't it? These fans that when their Saudi came in, literally they're like so happy. They're partying in the streets of Newcastle, partying because they're like, here we go. We are deserved success with the Mike Ashley era. And yeah, I couldn't agree more. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't think it's the sad state of affairs that is sports washing there. Because I think you definitely have obviously a lot. got like a few Newcastle friends, and they're not happy about being taken over. As you said, like, it's not their choice. But then you do get the other end of the scale where you just have people defending the owners. Like,
it's not everyone. You have to say it's not. No. There are people, and I want to throw Manchester City in that conversation. I'm not forgetting them. It's pretty much, it's a very similar thing. I didn't mention them. I just want to throw that in there for United and Newcastle fans. They are the clubs that are in a similar situation. So
I don't always blame the fans though. But not everyone has like that educated or whatever. The whole point of sports washing is they're taking advantage of people's like emotion to a club, and people can't see past that a lot of time, and they're just saying, I don't care, I just want to win, I don't care, it's nothing to do with me. And sometimes I just think, what can you do about that? That it's hard to completely stop that from happening, because I think it's almost impossible.
What were your thoughts when obviously Roman Abramovich sold up, and if Everton get taken over, and that would be 50% of the Premier League to 10 will have American owners? So when Todd Boehly was going to step in through the doors, what were your thoughts? Were you like, okay, brilliant, or did you do your research?
Well, they were the best. It was the best plan put ahead. I think, obviously, I don't think Abramovich wanted to sell at all, and still don't know what's gone on with that money. I think the UK government is just holding it. I mean, yeah,
don't get shut down.
That's a different story. So I don't know what's going on there. But yeah, I mean, they had like a process, and it seemed to be the best of quite a bad bunch, to be fair. But yeah, I know it's difficult for fans because you have no control over this. Maybe it could be like in Germany where it's a 50% ownership of the fans. I think that was put up by the when the sale of Chelsea was going on. Should it be by the fans? But again, it's hard to do with all the money in the Premier League. You said you don't want to be chasing money. You get left behind, really.
The Premier League has let fans and clubs down to no end, and I think they think that this is going to take the league in to an untouchable level. I think it's having the opposite effect. To be fair, I think City have made the league completely boring in terms of now we're getting excited about who finishes second. That's not good. That's not a good league.
The thing is, because they've got basically unlimited money, but they've got the machine like sorted.
They sign well. They sign very well.
Obviously, Guardiola is a massive part of that, but it's more fun when you've got a lot of money and you don't know how to spend it, like us. And there's the teams have been like that.
Don't think it's more fun. I don't think you've
had it. It's more fun for the Premier League.
More fun for me, I think. Yeah.
More fun for the Premier League. You had Man United spending loads more than anyone, I think, over the last 10 years, and just they don't have a plan really. So it's not just about the money.
That's the point. Yeah, if it worked out, if Alexis Sanchez went on to be Messi, or then we wouldn't be hearing a lot.
But it feels like you're right. If you stand still, you fall behind, right? And I feel like obviously Brighton run very well, but really, if you don't have money, how can you break into that top 6, top 7? Because now Newcastle are breaking into it because they have money and they've overachieved. But if you look at a club like Crystal Palace, let's look at West Ham have done very well. But you look at Southampton, your Leicesters, your Leeds, they've been relegated.
And can you do it for a certain amount of time?
Exactly. Or you have an incredible system in place that's working extremely well. And
this is it. Sometimes for clubs like that, you have to accept your position almost. And that's a tragic fact.
Yeah, and is that fair?
You look at Villarreal, the team I follow, they pretty much accepted that they're going to be 5th or 6th every year. Yeah. The odd year you get into the Champions League. But unless you somehow buck the trend, the only ticket in is if you somehow achieve something like 3 Champions League qualifications in a row. That prize money will take you to that next level without a new owner. But if you can't do that, and most teams can't, even if you're the best run club in the country, you have to accept the fact that you're going to finish 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, something in that range, and there's no breaking in unless you have state ownership, that's the monster the Premier League have now created, and it's just tragic what we're seeing.
The Premier League is the Super League. I know obviously you've got salary money now, but you've got a lot of stars from that Liga are going to that league are older. You've got a lot of younger players coming to the Premier League now. You've got players like, was it Pau Torres signed from Aston Villa? You've got players like ilk, but back in the day, Pau Torres would have gone to a top 4 team. But now the Premier League can offer a huge amount of wages.
Villa as well, very rich now.
They're so rich. But that's another point we said we might have talked about. But now teams coming up from the Championship, or if you see the league at the moment, 3 points between them. Yeah. And But I think it's making it harder and harder to bridge the gap because the teams like, well, Wolves, they've been spending money for ages, but they've got good players. Like Neto's quality.
60 million, Cunha?
Yeah, like they've got good players. And then you've got like, you know, Luton, I feel a bit sorry for them. Luton and Sheffield United are just, if they don't finish the bottom two.
Do you feel sorry for them though? I don't think I feel sorry for them because Sheffield United have sold their 2 best players to Burnley and in France. And then Luton have come up and gone, we're signing the Championship best players.
Because for their business model, it makes sense. They just sign good Championship players. They know they're going to get relegated. Next season, they'll be a good Championship team. But maybe you can give it a bit of a go. But I think the gap. I think they just got promoted when they really shouldn't have. They're kind of ahead of the
exactly.
The one curveball. The 3 teams went up last year. They all stayed up.
They did,
which was a huge.
And the 3 that went down this season are big teams.
Yeah.
So I think maybe it's one of those where the 3 teams that have come up. I mean, we don't know about Burnley. I think it's fair to say Burnley have a very tough start.
Yeah.
So maybe they're tearing around company, but then you look at a team, and I'm not overly sure. But they spent a little bit of money. The other 2 teams just have no ambition. And I suppose, I mean, that 12 points from Derby. 11 points, sorry, Derby. I'm going to get extra points for 11 points. You know, that is in jeopardy. Like, you know, Luton are a bad football team. And I keep saying it. You've not won a game this season because everyone beats Luton. If you don't beat Luton, like Wolves didn't, that is poor.
I reckon they're going to pick up some points, you know. Just from 5 though.
Well, they're going to have to stop conceding goals.
I do want every year someone to be as bad as Derby, but I just don't think it's going to happen.
You don't reckon?
They are just like the worst team.
You've seen Luton play, right?
I've seen Derby play as well.
Yeah, they were bad.
That's right now, Luke. We should be talking good about 1
point.
No, the Hatters.
No, up the Hatters. I'm not too sure. But yeah, I think it goes back to a sad state, isn't it? I think unfortunately the Premier League is becoming like the Super League. And how many clubs are even owned by fans? I think it's 2, Brentford and Brighton. And therefore, it sort of loses the joy. And if you don't have the money, you're going to fall behind, aren't you? It's sad because now, that top 6, add Newcastle, and Villa soon, suddenly teams like Spurs, Big Ange is doing an amazing job. Because if not, they would be falling behind.
Well, we might even get a top 8 now.
Yeah.
And we might even be...
It does keep the standard up, though. Because, you know, before, top 14 could not be that good and still get it with not that many points, or it wouldn't be that much of a challenge. Now, if like we've started the season awfully, we're so far behind. I'm like, it's like 3 or 4 teams ahead of us who wouldn't normally be there. So now you basically have to be on your A game.
Well, the one lucky thing is you can be rich, but you can still run yourself badly, right? It's last season, Newcastle, finished in the top 4. They were fortunate that Tottenham, Liverpool, Chelsea, all disastrous seasons. I mean, luckily, and United have proven this over recent years, you can still spend money badly.
If they spend money badly, $1 billion and get relegated, that's what I'm hoping.